name is Chris, and I'm our executive pastor here, and it's great to be with you, whether you're in the room, whether you're online. I'm so thankful that you're here. How many runners do we have out there? If you're in the room, raise your hand. If you're online, start typing the little runner emoji in the chat right now. Show us who you are. You know, I'm a runner. I'm a formerly long-distance runner. Now I run short distances. You know, one of my favorite things I did this last year, was I started getting into trail running more and more. It really ignited some love of running afresh in me. I actually joined the trail running interest group. It's a great way to meet people, by the way. If you're looking to get connected and get to know some people, join an interest group. You can go to the Get Connected space. You can go online, join an interest group. I did, and I had a blast getting to do it. But there's this phenomenon in running, specifically in long-distance running, called the wall. And it usually happens with marathoners when they hit about mile 21. And see, what happens is you can hit this wall, this physical, mental wall, when you hit that point, and there's a variety of reasons that you can hit the wall. Sometimes it's because you're off pace. You're moving too quick. The adrenaline's flowing too hard. You got too amped up, and you're off pace. And by mile 21, you've used it all up. Or maybe you've just run out of nutrients. You haven't been rehydrating. You haven't been feeding your body the way that you need to throughout the race. And so your body's just depleted of energy along the way. And so what begins to happen is you begin to fight a battle on two fronts. You begin to fight it physically, because physically your body is worn out. This is usually the point where you're at the longest you've run yet. Most people don't train past 20 miles when training for a marathon. So by the time you hit mile 21, you're further than you've ever been. Your body's literally running out of steam. And then you start to fight the battle mentally. Because what happens when you're running and your body's running out of the resources, it starts to pull everything you need and give it to the muscles so that you can actually physically keep moving. Well, that means your brain's not getting what it needs anymore. So those thoughts that can so easily take us down begin to get stronger and stronger and stronger. All the while this is happening, you have that realization, I still have 5 miles to go. I'm not quite done yet. And it can be a really devastating thing for a runner. You know, you can prepare for it, you can know it's going to come, but you can't always guarantee that you're going to be able to avoid it. That's why running, and running a marathon in particular, takes perseverance. Because you have to be able to continue despite difficulties that you encounter. That's what perseverance is. Being able to continue even when you face difficulties. And today what I want to suggest to us is that we don't just hit walls when we're running or doing some sort of physical exercise. We hit walls in life. You're in a long season. You've been pushing really hard. You're feeling done with it. But it's not over. Maybe you've had a goal. You've had a vision. And you've seen, yeah, I've made some progress, but you know you're not there yet. And you're starting to feel discouraged and hopeless. Is this ever going to happen? And so we start to hit these walls in life. The race isn't over, but you're over. You're done. Your emotions are frayed. You're lacking motivation. Your resources are drying up. Hope is just slowly fading away. 2020 felt like a long run, didn't it? Yeah. You know, many of us were hoping that 2021 was going to be the start of a new race, and maybe what we're feeling a couple weeks into it is this is not a new race, this is mile 21. I'm hitting the wall right now. So what do we do when we hit walls? In life, when we hit a wall, what do we do? Why don't you open your Bible up to Hebrews chapter 12. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1 is going to be our anchor passage throughout the next 3 weeks as we're in this series. In verse 1 of Hebrews chapter 12, it says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Run with perseverance. Perseverance is what we need if we're going to make it through the wall. And perseverance is a choice. It's a choice to continue to do the things that we know are good for us, that we know are going to help us, even when it's difficult. It's a choice. And I love choice. I'm a believer in the power of choice. I may not always like the options that I have to choose between, but I still have the power to choose. Choice is empowering. It's energizing. It creates opportunities. And perseverance is a choice. And it allows me to push through the walls that I find myself in life. And in Hebrews 12, it tells us what we should choose in order to push through the walls we face in life in order to persevere. It says that we should look to those around us. We got to choose people. It says we got to choose to cut out things that are tripping me up. And it says I got to choose to focus on my race. Not your race, my race. Today we're going to dive into just one choice. Just one of those choices in order to make it through the wall and persevere. It says, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses. The author of Hebrews here is painting a beautiful picture for us with this language. They want us to see that it's vital that we have people in our life if we are going to persevere. Because we were not made to do life alone. We were not made to do life alone. That is central and core to the gospel. Jesus stepped into our world to restore relationship with God. We were made to have relationship with one another. We were made to have relationship with the world who needs Jesus. We were made for relationship. We were made for people to be in our life. It's part of who we are designed to be. And if we're going to persevere, we need to understand that we can't do life alone. We actually need a cloud. We need a cloud. This Greek word for cloud here in this Hebrews 12 word, what it is it's talking about a figure of speech that was common in the day, referring to a large group, a massive amount. It's saying you need a cloud. You need people who are going to be in this with you if you are going to persevere when you hit a wall, because you're going to hit a wall. In life, you will hit a wall at some point. And so you need to choose before you hit that wall to have people in your life. I intentionally say we need to choose it because the circumstances surrounding 2020 have forced almost everyone in the planet into a place of relational isolation that most of us have never experienced before. And what has been silently sown into all sorts of aspects of culture is that isolation is totally okay and normal. And that is not true. Isolation is not totally normal and okay.
That's right.
It is not what we were made for.
Yeah.
And so we have to intentionally choose to say, I am going to have people in my life.
Yeah.
I am going to choose them. So let me ask you today, who is in your cloud? Who is in your cloud? I believe there are 3 types of relationships that everybody needs in their cloud if we're going to persevere through the walls that hit us. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about relationships that inspire us, relationships that will instruct us, relationships that will encourage us and just be with us. As we run this race, we need heroes that inspire us, mentors who will champion us, and friends who are with us in this journey. Throughout the Bible, some of the most well-known figures, specifically in the passage right before this, in Hebrews 11, which is often dubbed the Hall of Faith, they had these types of relationships in their life. They had highs, they had lows, but they had people in their life, and so they made it through. They were able to not just endure, but persevere through the walls. They were able to get through it. One of my favorite ones to look at is King David from the Old Testament. King David had heroes that inspired him, heroes from previous generations like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He had a mentor in the prophet Samuel who saw David for what he could be, a king, not what he was at the time he met him, a shepherd. He had a friend named Jonathan who went with him through the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. And it says in Acts chapter 13, verse 36, about David. Now, when David had served God's purposes in his own generation, that's key. He had served God's purposes in his generation. He fell asleep, was buried with his ancestors, and decayed. What that is saying is David finished the race. Yeah. David persevered. Now, David had some moments where he hit walls. He had some great highs. He had some terrible lows. But in the end, he persevered through it. He made it through it because he didn't do life alone. I want to finish. I know you want to finish. And we don't finish alone. We don't do that. That's not the way that it works. The key we have to remember here is that if we want to make it through the walls, we have to have a cloud. We have to have a cloud with different types of relationships who are going to help us get through it. And today what we're going to talk about is how do you find those relationships? And what are you looking for in the people of those types of relationships? Because not everybody in your life is going to be a copy of one another. You need different type of people in your life to help you get through all of the challenges that you are going to face. You need a great cloud of witnesses around you, speaking into you. We all need heroes that inspire us. Kids seem to have the easiest time understanding that we need heroes. When I was a kid, I desperately wanted to be Superman. Like, full-on, legit wanted to be Superman. My mom still tells stories of me running around in my little whitey-tighties with a cape on, trying to save everybody from the impending doom that was coming. I would jump behind the door when it was time for dinner, and I would, Chris was back. And then there would be a catastrophe somewhere in the world, and I was back into Superman because I had a hero. As I grew up, my heroes went from fantasy creations to real-life people. See, heroes are most often people that I don't have a relationship with yet. But there's something about them, something about the way they live, something about what's the fruit of their life that inspires me to believe that my life could be more. That, there's something greater out there. There's something about you that inspires me. You help me dream for something bigger. They spark a vision inside of us of what could be, what is possible. That's what heroes do. They inspire. So what do you look for in a hero? Because who we look to for inspiration, who actually is in our cloud, I said earlier that perseverance is a choice. You may not always like the options that you have, but you always have a choice. Who's in your cloud will often tell you what options you believe are available to you. If you have people in your cloud who believe that God can do anything, that miracles are the norm in life, that there is more for you, that God has great things planned for your life, then you will look around you and see options as full of hope and possibility. But if you don't have people in your life, in your cloud, that believe those things, then you will find yourself thinking that everything is always just going to be the way it is, broken, and you're just going to be stuck. And who's in your cloud influences what you believe to be true. So who do you look for in heroes? What are you looking for? We need heroes that inspire us towards kingdom of heaven purposes. See, culture will prize heroes. They'll tell us the heroes that we need to have are ones whose achievements are solely based on their accomplishments. And accomplishments are not bad. Accomplishments are often the fruit of one's labor. And though they're not bad, But biblically, we're given a picture in Hebrews 11 of what real heroes actually look like. In Hebrews 11, there's more than a dozen people. I believe it's actually 18 people that are listed by name. And then it just gives some few others like larger caveats. There's people that are given this label as heroes, heroes of the faith. And why are they given that? They're not given it because of what they accomplished in the eyes of their peers. They're given it because of what they carried within them, a faith. That is called character. They're heroes not because of what they accomplished. They're heroes because of the faith that they carried, the belief in who God was and what he would do, that he would be faithful to his promises, whether they saw it come in their lifetime or not. They were unmoved. That kind of internal fortitude is what we call character. It is character. That's why they were heroes. Yes, they had highs. People like David were mentioned in here. They had great highs. They also had terrible lows that we should learn from but not emulate. Yet they're still heroes. They're heroes because of what they believed, what they fought for, the faith they sought to hang on to. Throughout my life, I've had a number of heroes. And most of them, they aren't well known. They're not always the most accomplished. They're the ones whose characters stand the test of time. I recently turned 39, and for some of you in the room, you're thinking, wow, that's old. And for others, you're thinking, you're just getting started, kid. But the reality is as I get older, the heroes that I look to are not the most well-known people, but they're people that have more gray hair than I do, and they're still standing. They're still believing Jesus is who he said he was, that the gospel is still true, that people are worth fighting for. They've been through challenges, and they're still standing and saying God is good and he's faithful and he always will be. Those are the people I look to be heroes in my life. Not because of what they've done, but because of who they are, the character that they embody. Because ultimately, character matters more than accomplishments. In our race in life, in your race in life, God is far more concerned about who you're becoming than what you're doing for him. And so if you're going to have a hero that inspires you, make sure they're more concerned about who they're becoming than what they're doing. Because if who you're becoming is the right thing, then what you do will bear all the kingdom fruit. Take it back to David for a moment. David's a hero for me. Not because he was perfect, because he wasn't by any stretch. He made plenty of mistakes. They're well documented for us here in the Bible. But David, what was said about him is that God said he was a man after my own heart. Not because of what he did in the battles that he won. Not because of the mistakes that he made and the choices that were wrong. Not because of what he didn't do. God said, you're a man after my own heart. Because of what you've pursued. At every turn, you've pursued me. You've gone after me. And it made David a hero. Look for a hero who can inspire you. You need a hero in your cloud. You need someone who will inspire you to believe that more is possible. That will inspire you to believe that you can dream bigger. That it is possible. That God wants to do the impossible through you. You need a hero in your cloud. You also need a mentor or mentors in your cloud. And what mentors do is they champion you in your life. They're different than heroes because mentors are actively engaged in investing in your life. While a hero is a distant figure that you look to, that you get inspired by, a mentor is going to be someone who's going to be in your life, who's going to help you take ground, help you push through the walls that you're facing. And it's critical that we have these, because when you hit a wall in life, what you want to do is quit. That's all you want to do. A few years ago, I hit a wall. I hit it hard. I had been in a season. Sometimes we say season and you think it means like a normal like fall. No, this was a 5-year season. This was like a 5-year season of my life where it was hard, where I was being stretched, where it felt like everything I did, I just wasn't quite enough. And I was just worn down, beat up. Honestly, I felt toast. I was just burned up. Like I didn't have anything left to give. It had taken from me physically. Physically, I was, the weight I was carrying, the role of leadership I was carrying was more than I'd ever done, and I was still learning how to navigate it, navigate it in my emotional world, and so that then had an impact on my physical world. I couldn't sleep at night. I was worn out, worn down. Mentally, my thoughts were really hard to contain. They were going in all sorts of directions. I had lost sight of who God had called me to be, what I was supposed to be doing. I had no vision for right now, much less the future. And I went on a walk one morning and, just trying to clear my head, trying to get some sort of stability in my soul. And, I finished the walk discouraged. I didn't get there. But I had a call scheduled with a mentor, so I made my way back to my car, sat in the car, and jumped on the call with this guy, and I poured out all my frustration, I poured out my pain, I poured out my disappointments, I just poured out my confusion. I don't know what to do. And this man, he listened to me, he encouraged me, he asked me some really fantastic questions. And then he reminded me of who God had called me to be. That call lasted about 45 minutes. It wasn't a half-day retreat. It was a 45-minute phone call. I didn't leave with all the answers. I didn't have a detailed plan coming out of that, but what I had was a belief. I believed in myself again. I knew that someone believed in me. I believed that I may not know what to do today, but I've got people that are with me today. And so I'm going to get through this. I'm going to be able to keep going. I can push forward. I went from being stuck to feeling confident. I knew what I was capable of. I didn't know how I was going to do it yet. I didn't know how I was going to do it yet, but I knew I was going to get there. I knew I could at least keep going. And if I could just keep going, I'd take some more ground. I'd just take some more ground. David, we're talking about taking it back to David again. See, what a mentor does is they see who you could be. They champion who you are. They get behind you. In 1 Samuel chapter 16, God is looking for a new king. A new king of Israel. Saul, the first king, had disobeyed God, turned his back on him, and God said, well, I need someone who's going to be with me. And so Samuel goes to look for the new king. And he shows up at Jesse's house. Jesse is David's dad. And he says, wow, there's these big, strong, handsome guys here. Surely one of these is the king. And God speaks to Samuel and he says in 1 Samuel 16:7, do not consider his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him. The Lord does not look at things people look at. People look at outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. In this story, Samuel is in David's house. His brothers, his strong, handsome brothers, are being paraded before Samuel. They're the potential new kings. Where's David? David's in the field doing the servant's job. David wasn't even invited to the party. A few verses later, when Samuel's like, go get David, David shows up. Samuel doesn't see him for who he was at the moment. He was a shepherd. He was the forgotten one, the one who wasn't even invited. He said, no, this is a king. A mentor will see you for who you're called to be, not where you find yourself at today. You need a mentor in your cloud because you need someone who's going to have your back when you feel like you've hit the wall, you can't keep going, you're ready to quit, you've lost vision for your life, and you don't know what to do. You need a mentor who's going to look at you and say, no, you're made for more. You're made for more. You may not feel it today, but you're made for more, and I believe you can do it. You need a mentor in your cloud. Someone who believes in you, someone who's going to be engaged in your life, someone who will ask you questions that you didn't even know you needed to ask, someone who will hear your ideas, give you feedback on them so that they become life-changing outcomes. You need someone like that in your life. So how do you find someone like that in your life? Sometimes mentors find you. Samuel found David. I've had experiences where people who are mentoring me in my life, they just seem to appear in my life, and it's the grace of God for what I need in that moment. Other times, I got to go find them. I got to look at someone who I say, you know what? I want what you have. Your marriage is what I want my marriage to look like. You go find them. And you go to them and say, I want you to mentor me in how to be a better husband, how to be a better spouse. I want you to mentor me there. You know what? I want to be a dad like you. Would you teach me how to be a dad? You look at someone and say, you know what? The way you lead people is astounding. Would you teach me how to lead? Would you teach me how to do that? You've got to initiate. Sometimes, occasionally, a mentor will appear in your life. More often than not, you will get one because you go get one. I want to encourage you today, whether you're in the room or online, you need a mentor. So go get one. Look for someone who you know, or you go, you know what, I want what you have. And initiate with them. Tell them, this is who I want to be. I see it in you. Would you help me get there? And then just some pro tips, because I do this, because I need mentors in my life. When you initiate with them, if you take them to lunch, dinner, or coffee, you buy. If they tell you they have an hour, you have an hour. Because these people, other people want their time too. You want them for a mentor because other people want them for a mentor. Their time is valuable. So if they say, I got an hour, then you make sure you set your watch for an hour and you come prepared. You want to learn how to be a better dad? Then you come with a list of questions. What do you do here? This is the challenge I'm facing. Help me get through this. How do you think about this? Help me. You come ready. If you go into a mentor relationship casually, you will get nothing from it. But if you show up intentionally, saying, I believe what you have is valuable, would you please give it to me? I'm going to seek it out. Then you will get some great things out of it. And the reality is, you need a mentor in your life if you're going to push through the walls. You need a mentor in your cloud because a mentor will give you perspective when you hit that wall. They will say, I know you're exhausted. I know you're tired. I know it's mile 21, but you've got 5 miles to go. You got 5 miles to go. Walk the next 2 if you need to, but you're going to keep moving forward. You're going to get there. They give you a sense of perspective and place where you're at in your journey because they've been there before. You need a mentor in your cloud. And lastly, you just need some friends in your cloud. Friends are those who are just going to be with you in the race. They're just there, running alongside you. David had Jonathan. The Bible would tell us they'd actually become like brothers. They were so close. They would face challenges. They would win victories. They would celebrate. They'd go through terrible, terrible trials. But they were in it together. You know, as an adult, I found it gets harder to make friends. You know, when I was a kid, playing on the playground, it just wasn't all that hard. Hey, I'm Chris, you want to play? I was just looking for someone to run up the slide with me. You know, but as an adult, life's more complicated. And no matter what season of adulting you're in, whether you're single, young adult, whether you've got grandkids, whether you've got small kids, whether you've got no kids, whatever season of adulting you're in, adulting is harder. It's more complicated. When I was a kid, I didn't know that my energy and time had limits. I had boundless energy, and I didn't even know what time was. But as an adult, I recognize there's restraints on my life. And so it just makes life more complicated. I've had relationships that didn't go well. And so you go in a little gun shy to experiences. You go into relationships that, maybe it's a new season for you. I've moved across the country twice. I've experienced seasons without deep friendships. It's hard. And I know some of you have too. It's hard. When you feel like you're in a season where you just don't have the friendships that you once did. It can be really difficult. People have moved away. Maybe you were the one that moved away. Maybe someone's season of life changed and you find yourself going, man, I don't even know who I would go hang out with. I don't even know what to do. I'd love a friend. Maybe you've tried and you're feeling weary and you're feeling worn out. What I want to encourage you to do is when you hit the friendship wall, to persevere. Yeah. Perseverance is that we keep going even when things get difficult, even when things are hard. Building friendships, the ones where you have history, and that sense of like deep connection that's built over years, those are awesome. You know how you get them? Time. You don't ever build new friendships. You don't ever build history with people. And sometimes we just need to build a new friendship. We need to lean in. If you're in a place right now where you're saying, you know what, I need some friends. Maybe you're saying, I've started to believe the lie that isolation is okay. And I want to fight that. I want to fight that lie. I want to lean into some friendships, but I'm feeling a little weary. I'm feeling a little gun shy about it. I want to encourage you today that what you can do is, first of all, remind yourself that Jesus gave us a promise that he would never leave us. And you may have to remind yourself of that every single day. Maybe you're watching online today and you're sitting at home alone. And you're watching at home alone today. I want to encourage you right now in this moment to remind yourself that Jesus promised that you would never be alone. That he's with you right now. That's central to the gospel, central to why he came. It's central to who he is. He wants you to know he's with you today. He wants the friendship of heaven to be released on you today. He wants you to experience the friendship of God. And if you need to pray that every single day, then pray it every single day. Say, God, would I experience your friendship? And while you're in that place of prayer, crying out for God to be near to you, say, God, and I need people. I need people. Send me some people to be in my life. Help me embrace the awkward of making new friendships, of putting myself out there, of risking. God, help me, because I need people. Do the things you know to do. Reach out. Text somebody. Show up to life group. Jump into an interest group. Join a serve team. Call somebody, FaceTime them, set up a Zoom chat. Reach out, because you were not made to do life alone, and you will not make it through the walls if you do not have friends who are running with you. Years back, I was running a race. It wasn't a full marathon, it was a half marathon. I was in my early 20s. Now that I'm in my late 30s, I recognize the difference between running a race in my 20s and running a race in my 30s. In my early 20s, I could run a dozen miles and get up the next morning and not feel it. Now I run 2 miles and I get home and I'm like, my hips hurt. And I didn't train for this race. I didn't prepare at all. I was in my early 20s. I didn't need to. At least that's what I thought. It was a day almost just like today. I hadn't trained. I was worn out. It was mile 10. It was snowing. How ironic. It was snowing in Texas. And I am dying. I was running the whole time. I hadn't stopped to walk. I hadn't stopped to use the bathroom. I hadn't had a water break, which was stupid. And I had just kept going and going and going and going. And about mile 10, I was just toast. And there was no way I could keep going. Mentally, I was, no one's out watching anyways. It's snowing. People don't get out in the snow in Texas. Thank you for doing it. Well done. But I was ready to quit. And so I start to slow down. And as I start to slow down, I hear this desperate cry behind me. See, unbeknownst to me, there had been a lady following me for the last 10 miles. And she starts yelling out, "Don't stop, green shirt. Don't stop, green shirt." And I look back and I realize she's talking to me. I'm the guy in the green shirt. And she says, "If you stop, I'm stopping, and I don't think I'll be able to start again. You got to keep going. You got to keep going. I need you to keep going." So I took another step, and I just kept going. We crossed the finish line together. Me and this lady, we didn't know each other before. Haven't talked to her since, but we helped each other in that moment. Let me tell you, you need somebody in your cloud. You need a cloud. You need a cloud. You need people in your life. You need heroes that inspire, mentors who champion, and friends who are just going to be with you. You need a cloud. Would you get to your feet? So let me ask you, once again, who's in your cloud? Who's the hero that's going to inspire you? Maybe it's a biblical figure. Maybe it's somebody that you admire from afar. But you need a hero that inspires you, that more is possible. Who's the mentor that you're going to initiate with, that you're going to say, "There's something about your life, and I want to learn from you. Would you help me? This is who I feel like God's called me to be. Help me." You need a mentor in your cloud. Who are the friends? Maybe you know who they are. Text them today. Say, "You're in my cloud. I need you with me in this." Maybe you need to take another step again to risk and say, "I'm going to go for some friendships again. It's been hard, but I'm going to go for it because I need friends in my cloud." Because we got a wall to push through. We got a wall to persevere past. And let me tell you something. You were made to make it through. You're going to get through this. You're going to finish. You're going to run your race with perseverance, and you're going to reach the end. Let me finish here, right where we started. Hebrews 12. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. God, we pray today. We pray today that we would know we have a cloud, that we are not alone, that your promise to us is that we would never be alone, that you would bring us people who would be with us in it. And so we know we're going to make it. We know we're going to make it because you're with us. You're with us, God. You're with us to the end. God, we worship you. Thank you for being with us.